Hey Jonathan, I appreciate you taking the time to make a video about an issue that I think a lot about and that is quite relevant to my own path. Um, Perhaps, I don't like to call them drugs, perhaps we can call them molecular species uh, of medicine or entheogens or psychedelics, psychotropics, psychomimetics. Um, these in many ways are sacred substances, or at least they can be when used in the appropriate ritualistic sacramental contexts. They can also be used, just to goof off and have a good time, or to party, or whatever sort of recreational use. And maybe there's a time and a place for that, but that's a separate issue. I think what you were speaking to was the validity or invalidity of um, utilizing such means, chemical means, plant means, fungi means, whichever means, in order to have some sort of an experience of God, let's say, or of the divine. And I think what you're basically alluding to is if our essence is immaterial, not part of the body, then these substances can't, being they are physical, they're molecules, um, these can't really be affecting our perception of or understanding of or experience of God. And, you know, okay, I'm a proponent of the idea that the mind is embodied, and so whatever our essence is, it's fully present here and now. So I wouldn't reduce it to the body and can say that it's somehow that I am contained inside my skull somewhere. No, consciousness is, an interpermeable process which is not individual and merely personal. It's personal, but it's also interpersonal and intersubjective. Consciousness is out in the world, involved in all of our exchanges. It's not simply lodged in the body somewhere. Um, but at the same time, uh, I think ingesting one of these substances, one of these plants, alters your state of consciousness because it's changing the filter, so to speak, and it's altering the state of the vessel, which is your body. You know, I don't disagree with you, Jonathan, that in some way there is a spirit which inhabits the body for a time, but is not the body. Um, but while it inhabits the body, changing uh, the body's chemical state changes the way the spirit or the soul is able to perceive the world. Um, and this can have very transformative effects on the way a person lives their life. A human person, at least, human beings, maybe you could say we are ultimately spiritual beings having a human experience, or you could say we're human beings that are capable of spiritual experiences. Whichever way you want to look at it, human beings have bodies, and the way uh, we live our bodies, the foods that we eat, the substances and plants that we come into alliances with, uh, these have real effects on our well-being. Um, and I guess, your point about maybe cannabis in particular and the sorts of conversations which emerge out of them, I think that's very situational, and there's certainly a stereotypical sense in which um, discussions uh, over, a joint or something can get a little off track, and you start to float around on your thoughts, and not you lose a degree of rigor and seriousness and everything becomes just a little too light and humorous, And I think there's a time and a place for that, but I can definitely see where you're coming from. That we've got to be a little more concerned about these questions, these philosophical questions, because they're existential. They concern life and death. They concern ultimate meaning. They concern the purpose of the point of what it is that we're supposed to be doing here. But see, I don't think cannabis or any other drug gets in the way of that. In fact, a lot of mystics speak of death, rebirth experiences, and there are many ways of sparking or initiating such an experience. You don't need to ingest a substance in order to do it, though you can do it that way. But dying before death, in the sense of like an ego death prior to bodily death, well, this has transformative effects, right? You're no longer afraid of your ultimate fate, which is for your body to decompose and disappear. Instead, you see that in you which is aware remains aware even when the body is totally gone. And the reason that I can agree with you about this spirit or this soul which exists, independent of the body, is because of experiences catalyzed by psychedelic substances. I've been there, free of the body, and I've also had experiences where I was definitely one with and continuous with the body and the earth, the physical world. And I don't know how exactly to articulate the way in which I can hold both of these, the transcendent spiritual perspective and the immanent material perspective, though it's a living, breathing, embodied material. But I'm able to somehow hold these two together and not deny the validity of either. When it comes to spiritual practice, I guess you could say I'm a bit of a tantric practitioner, and then I think the only way out is to go deeper in. And I am a body. My brain functions on neurochemicals, and so if I want to change my mind, what are the most effective tools to use? Thought, conversation, logic, they're great, but there are other tools which are equally as valid given the proper circumstances, the proper skills, and so forth. I don't think logic in and of itself is good, nor is LSD or cannabis or anything else, but there's certainly powers opened up to us, abilities opened up to us as a result of such tools that we have to actualize. So yeah, I guess that's all I have to say. But thanks for your video, Jonathan, and I look forward to hearing any thoughts you may have concerning my response. Have a good night.